let's dive into week 3 preview in the Blitz on the Action Lab. We are going to dive into some of our favorite matchups of the week. We're also going to go into all of our best bets, and then we're going to recap all of our standings for the fantasy league, and then also pick'ems and eliminator. So we're going to go into all those later on the show. Plus, Scotty's coming in hot. We'll be joining. Scotty will be handling all of that at the end of the show. You won't want to miss that. So go check that out. Hey, thank you, Football White, for yet another gifted sub.
Gifted one to Mackie. What's up, by the way, Mackie? How you doing, man?
Let me give a shout out to Mackie.
Thanks for coming in. Mackie does a little Twitch streaming himself.
There you go.
From time to time. So check him out just at that name itself, Mackie D33. Check him out. Him and one of my good buddies every other Saturday, I know, have a stream that they do where they just, it's a just chatting, kind of go with the flow thing, but entertaining for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, always entertaining. Chairman of the board. As far as you know, Scott, tomorrow's game is a go. I hope so, says Broncos.
It's a go. It's a go. Although I'm always optimistic, but yeah. We're a go. We're a go tomorrow. I don't think it's supposed to be as bad as even today, and they really should have just started on time today. Enjoy that game, Broncos.
Love that the over/under is 38.5 for this, says Devil Doc. Speaking of, let's dive into this Thursday night barn burner, i.e. First to 10. We have the Steelers at the Browns here. And the Browns are favored by 5 in this one. Over under, as Devil Doc mentioned, 38.5, which is that's a low over under, which just tells you everything you need to know about this matchup. You got some quarterback issues on both sides where, Brissett hasn't looked awful, but he's not like, anything that you would want to have going into a game. But then on the other side, there's still some issues with the Steelers offense and getting things rolling. But, Scotty, if I'm looking at this one, I didn't bet this one. I lean Browns just a little bit, but I don't love this. The Steelers still play really, really strong divisionally, close games. We've seen this already with Cincinnati. I think they'll keep this one close, which is why I'm I don't know what to expect with this one. Now the rule of thumb is lower spreads, you take the team, especially +5. So that's, all right, well, maybe I take the Steelers then. I don't know. I don't know. That's why I didn't bet this one.
This line doesn't make any sense to me, Chris. Now, I know it's a short week, and I generally don't like betting on road teams on short week, on the Thursday night games, because they don't have a lot of time to prepare, and they're the traveling team as well, so it's hard to, get ready for the game. But why is this line 5? Why are the Browns? First of all, typically when the Steelers and Browns play in Cleveland, half the stadium Steelers fans anyway, right?
Yep.
So is this really even home field, or is it going to be a neutral setting? And the Browns are favored by 5. Why, Chris? Why? I think the Steelers defense is probably better than the Browns. I'd say the Browns offense, and not that the Browns offense is great, but is better than the Steelers. But 5 points in a 38.5 over under, and here's what scares me though, Chris. Usually when I see spreads like this, there's not a lot of spreads where I'm this doesn't make any sense to me at all, this number. So I get scared off from it because I'm it's a trap. But I'm going to fall for the trap this time. I'm taking Steelers in the 5 points, Chris. In a low-scoring game, if they can create some turnovers, we'll see how the Browns can come back from that devastating loss last week. Their run game has looked pretty good, and Brissett actually hasn't looked bad. But the Browns also haven't played great competition yet. I'd say the Steelers have had, what did they have? Bengals and then Patriots had slightly tougher opponents than what the Browns had with the Jets, and who they beat, Panthers week 1. So give me the points. In a low-scoring game, 5 seems like a lot to me. They're basically, if Steelers get to 17, they're going to cover this. They just got to get to 17. Get one defensive touchdown, and Trubisky make a couple plays for the love of God. Make a couple plays. This could be, if Trubisky doesn't play well in this one, Chris, we might see Kenny Smallhands Pickett moving forward. You have an extra little, you got 10 days to prep for the next game, and Trubisky keeps looking like he's kind of looked, in my opinion. We're going to Smallhands, Chris.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think I talked myself into Steelers +5. I think it's 4.5 now. But if you're able to get 5 somewhere, go for it. But yeah, a low spread like this, it's just, I think the Browns are the better team, but I think the Steelers keep this close, and they could win outright. I mean, you look at that +170 bet. So you bet 10 to win 17. That's not a bad value here if you think the Steelers can come out. And I think this might be a close enough game for them to potentially win outright. But again, I'm not messing around with it. But if you guys haven't made your Pick'em contest, go ahead and click on that link in the chat. Go do our Pick'em challenge. It's not too late. And you can make sure that you're winning some prizes. You're only a couple weeks behind. Scotty always misses a week. I always end up forgetting to make my picks a week. So, hey, anything can happen. Anything is possible. ! Possible.
If I don't miss a week, I'm running away with this thing.
Yeah. No.
Although I'm not in the lead right now. I think. We going to look at that later, Chris? I think Football Wife's.
We will take a look at it later. But yeah. Anything is possible. Yeah.
Sure. Join it if you have it.
All right. So there you go. Steelers, Browns. Make those picks before tomorrow if you guys are in our Pick'em League already. And then you can get in on all that action. Pickett isn't starting anytime soon. He has Tomlin's trust, and Pickett isn't ready.
Why does he have Tomlin's trust? And Pickett can do what Trubisky's doing, which is nothing. Like, Trubisky did his best to lose week 1 against the Bengals when the Bengals were doing their best to lose it. Both teams were doing their best to lose that game week 1. And then week 2, you lose to a Patriots team that has Mackey's favorite quarterback, Mac Jones, at the helm?
Come on. How bad is TJ? How many weeks, says Mackey? It's going to be a little bit. Torn pectoral, right? I think that
I think they said like 6 to 8 weeks, and so he's a week in, so 5 to 7, I would imagine, is the timeline there. I'm sure TJ is the type that'll try and come back as soon as possible. Mackie gets so mad when I bring up Mac Jones, because he's like, he's not my favorite. I just thought I had him rated higher than you did. And I'm like, Mackie, you're adorable. I think he is your favorite, though. Like, I think if you were starting a franchise, you'd be like, Mac Jones. Mac Jones is the guy.
100%. I think that.
Why would you want Josh Allen? Why would you want Pat Mahomes when you can have Mac Jones?
Matt Canada limited Mitch horribly. What else do we got?
It sounds like we got some people that love Matt Canada. Love him.
Yes, you Canada. There you go.
Starting to feel bad for Canada.
Oh, no.
I never thought I'd get there.
Next up here, we have an interesting game, which, historically, there used to be a nice little rivalry with the Ravens and Patriots. The playoff matchups used to be so good. Well, this one, pretty close. Come on, man. You have Ravens at the Patriots here. And, Scotty, I think we're on both opposite sides of this one when it comes to some of our best bets. Ravens favored by 3 going into New England. 43.5 is the over-under here. So that's by the way, guys, for all of you guys who are new to betting, Ravens -3, that means they are favored to win this game by 3. So I want to just make sure for everyone who's new that, that's kind of how you break this down. That's how you make this matchup even. So, the favorite, everyone will obviously always bet on the favorite every single time, but Vegas always gives the other team.
It's only a game.
Why you have to be mad?
Why you have to be mad?
You don't.
I'm always mad.
Scotty's always mad. He's gonna be mad at the end of the show with this coming in hot. But that's just, so like if let's say the Bills were playing the, Jets. Obviously, everyone's going to bet the Bills. So what they do is they give they take away 10 points from the Bills, and they say, all right, now play this game and see, how the Jets do with 10 and those 10 points. And then that's kind of how that works. Over under is combined score. So 43.5 between the two teams when the game is all said and done. That's how that works. And then money line is just picking the team straight up. If you bet 100 to win, if you bet 100 on New England, you win 140. If you bet 165 on the Ravens, you win 100. So that's just kind of how that's how Vegas breaks it down in a nutshell. Ask your questions about betting if you want in the chat, and we could dive a little bit more into that as well. But let's dive into this one, Scotty. Scotty, you like, I think, one side of this one. If you want to dive in, go ahead.
I don't even know if I do like this side, Chris, but I listened to a podcast that talked me into it, and
oh no,
very well-known sports bettor in Vegas that I trust his
Is
idea
it Fez?
quite a bit.
Fez?
Yeah, Fez. Steve Fezzik. Actually, this is mostly moved down to 2.5. So if everyone loves Baltimore -3, a lot of places have it at 2.5 now. At 3, so it's moving in the opposite direction. I took the Patriots at home +3. I think there's two reasons. I think somebody mentioned it here. Mackie, I think, said Bill. Mackie and I are on the same page as always. Bill is going to game plan Lamar. I think Lamar, you can definitely, we've seen it in the postseason, when you really prep and put a game plan together, you can stop Lamar. Don't give him that first read over the middle. He's like the opposite of Russell Wilson, Chris. He loves to throw to the middle of the field.
Can't throw to the outside.
And not that he can't, but usually it's deep, and it's nothing shallow to the outside. It takes too long because he loves to look to the middle, and it just doesn't work that way. So make him pass outside the hashes to the sidelines, to the numbers quickly if you really want to force him into something he's not comfortable with. I think Bill, despite not having a great team, will be ready for that. Another low line, 43.5. Actually, Fezzik's power ranking, so he comes out with numbers every week, have these teams separated by 3 points if it was on a neutral, Chris. With the Ravens being 3 points better on a neutral field. This is obviously in New England. You got to give them at least a couple points there. So, well, I think the public's going to pound the Ravens in this one. I think sharps are on the Patriots, and I'm going to trust the sharps.
I just think a couple things here. The one thing I'm worried about is a little bit of the secondary of like the banged up Ravens defense. They just haven't really been in a place where they've been able to like reel in a lot of defensive stops from that standpoint. Obviously they played the Dolphins last week, right? Dolphins have two of the best receivers in the NFL, which I get it. And that game they blew at the very end. So Baltimore led 35-14 going into the fourth, and then Miami stormed back 42-38 for the victory. So I don't see the Ravens get off to fast starts, and I don't know if the Ravens get out to a fast start here, if the Patriots have the offensive firepower. They don't have two of the best wide receivers in the NFL to catch up in this game to make this close. So that's where I worry about this one a little bit for the. From my you love Fez. I love some of the guys on Sportsline who have always had some pretty good data. They run a lot of simulations, and a lot of those guys have it. Or at least my boy Mike McClure has this around 5 of as the line for this particular matchup. Which the fact that you're getting some value at 3. I think Baltimore will end up, doing some good things in this matchup. I think that they could cover this 3. I have Baltimore -3 in this one. And yeah, I think that this is a game that they can.
Swords on this one, Chris.
Yeah.
Crossing swords.
Yeah. This will be a fun matchup, though. I think more fun than what we're typically looking for in a New England matchup. But Baltimore is 7-3 against the spread in its last 10 games following a loss. So, they had that brutal loss against Miami. I think that they could potentially come out here and do that. Patriots are 0-3-1 against the spread in their last 4 overall, and 0-3-1 in their last 4 at home. So there's some trending lines going towards the other side here with Baltimore that I will take. So
what? Oh, maybe they probably the 0-3-1. They probably. I don't know why we go to the last 4 games when they've only played 2 games this year, Chris. That's bizarre. I don't know why we're going back to last season.
You always gotta
last 2 games of the season last year, and we're stopping that, which really means in their last 5 they're 1-3-1 because that means the game before that, they cut it off at the right time. 4 games is not a trend for me. It's got to be a lot more than that.
My man.
Hey, you got the numbers. See, we got some history. We got some science. We got some numbers. We got a little bit of everything over here. So
the numbers are that Bill owns quarterbacks that are one-dimensional.
We'll find out.
Numbers.
Well, we'll find out this week when the Ravens take on the Patriots in Foxborough. Scotty, can I get a close-up on the beard for the one time? Let's do it. There it is. It's looking great.
It's looking awful, Chris.
Bill will be preaching those
so bad.
Contained with a spy. By the way, who's the offensive and defensive coordinators for the Patriots?
They're awful. They're awful, Chris. Football Wife did ask, why is Lamar questionable? It is, yeah, he has like an elbow contusion, but I've heard it's not an issue. He'll play.
Yeah, Chris, that's history. It's the last season, bruh.
Well, but he's only taken the last 2 games of last season. When that's so. I don't know. That's weird.
He's my fantasy quarterback. I think he'll be fine. Football Wife. I mean,
I got him in a league too, Football Wife, and my Twitter doc, Pro Football Doc, said there's no concern there. He's gonna be just fine. Like not even the question of whether he's gonna play, and he really won't. It won't impact his ability on the field on Sunday either. So no excuses when you lose this one, Chris.
No excuses. Well, one of us won't go 4-0, and I feel good about my Ravens. All right. Bills and Dolphins. Ooh, this is a juicy one, man. This is juicy. Obviously, you had Tua coming off the career lifetime game, just blowing up, throwing touchdowns left and right, making a comeback against those Ravens that we just saw. And we have the Bills, who just blew out Tennessee on Monday night. It was just not even close. And Tennessee looked rough. But this will be an interesting matchup. This game, Bills -5.5 here. This line has fluctuated a ton, by the way. This has gone up and down and up and down. I think right now it's 6.5. At least
it's 6.5, yeah.
And
I saw it open at 5.5. I think it's only gone up, Chris.
And which is honestly interesting to me. So
yeah, because you're on the wrong side. I mean, I didn't even take this one.
No.
I don't know if you're on the wrong side. I don't have a great feel on this one.
No, I feel like this is an interesting one in the sense that I don't know. I mean, the Bills are the top team in the rankings, right? They're the Kansas City and Buffalo are the cream of the crop when it comes to the AFC. Now, the NFL. Bills are and the NFL, because I feel like we'll dive into that later. So, Bills defense is a little bit more healthy than Baltimore trotted out last week, but like Dolphins have one of the better home field. I mean, they have a decent home field here, especially, coming down to Miami. They're saying that the Bills should be, and this was when it was at 4.5, 7.5 or 8 points better than the Dolphins on a neutral field. With, you take away home field advantage is worth like 3, 2.5, 3, give or take. It's kind of fluctuated but you're saying a Bills offense with this many weapons, with Tua being able to work the ball around, and Coach McDaniel being able to put together game plans that are effective against some of these. I mean, the Bills, will say, are trotting out definitely a better defense. Von Miller's he looks like Von Miller from back in the Bronco days when he was still getting pressure on quarterbacks. So I think you're telling me that this Bills team, I mean, and this could still, I could still see this being a blowout too, but I think this Miami team can backdoor cover at least 6.5 points, 5.5 points, like what they did against Baltimore, and just like, you know, maybe the game may be a little bit out of hand, and maybe they come back at the end. Maybe I like the points. I think Miami's a little bit better than what people are giving credit for.
I don't have a great feel on this one, Chris. I just go back to last week. I understand people are now excited about Miami, and I picked Miami. I was the only one of us that picked the Miami to make the playoffs, Chris, and I don't think many people were picking Miami before the season to make the playoffs. So I like Miami, and listen, it was an exciting game last week, them coming back, but let's keep in mind, like, late in the third quarter, it was 35-14. They didn't look great those first three quarters, Chris, before they turned it on, and some of that was some defensive breakdowns from Baltimore. Their secondary's beat up. They made big mistakes. No one apparently was informed that Tyreek Hill is fast and you shouldn't let him get alone behind you. I don't think Buffalo is going to make those same mistakes. I think you force Miami to not get anything over the top, and which is ironic because Tua in years past everything's underneath and he likes to throw it underneath. But I'm not quite there where the Miami's ready for a game like this. I think Buffalo obviously has played phenomenal these first 2 weeks and dominated play. Chris, you talked about their pass rush. I think they're second in the league in pressure rate so far this season, but they've blitzed like the third least in the league. So they're getting all this pressure by only sending 4, and a lot of that's
Greg Rousseau in the middle. Oh
yeah, like they are getting pressure, only sending 4, which is literally the best thing you can have as a defense is getting pressure with 4. If you have that, your other pieces don't even necessarily matter that much.
True.
They can be average, and they're not average on their back end. Their corners are a little soft, but they have great safety play in Buffalo, and then eventually they'll get White back, and then if he's healthy, their corner play will be improved. But I could just see the Bills stomping him, Chris. I could. Now I didn't bet it. I hope it's a close competitive game that's fun to watch. I can't bet against the Bills right now. They look too good.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I think the Bills have had pretty solid weeks back to back. I mean, at some point they're gonna. I mean, if they're this good every week, they're the best team in the NFL, right? I think they regress at some level, and maybe it's not this week. Maybe it is this week. They will regress, and they won't have weeks like they continuously have been having. But is it this week? Is it against a good offense? Like, you know, will McDaniel have a good game plan here?
Are we sure it's a good offense?
I mean, they've been pretty.
They put up 23 in the first week with a defensive touchdown. So their offense scored 16 week 1.
Well, we also have been questioning whether or not Tua is it, and he's been figuring.
I'm not there yet.
I'm not there quite there yet, but he's been figuring it out. Like
he figured it out for a quarter and a half.
So I don't know.
I'd say I'd rather take the sample size of 6.5 quarters over 1.5 quarters. I'm not there. They scored literally. Their offense scored 16 points in week 1.
Now,
we're sure their offense is great.
He's able to get the ball to the right spots, and I don't know. Maybe is that the wide receivers getting open? Is that their speed? Is that the route running? Is that, you know, Waddle and Tyreek doing what they do? I mean, they're making it easier for Tua to be successful. If that's the case, then, you know.
But you're missing my point, Chris. You're very familiar with 16 points as an offense. Do you feel good when your offense scores 16 points in a game?
I mean, no, you have to be able to score points in nowadays this league, but they were able to put up points last week against Baltimore against the.
They had 14, and then they got hot in that fourth quarter, no doubt.
Sure.
And got some open shots over the top that I don't think will happen very often. I think I'd rather take the 6.5 quarters over the 1.5 quarters so far.
Well,
I'm not saying their offense isn't you know, even above average, but I'm not ready to put it even in the top 10 in the league.
Do I think? I mean, I don't think Tua is the end all be all at the moment. I don't think he's. But can he manage a game and get some throws out there and win some games? Yeah. I mean, I think that's completely in the realm of possibility, and I think that this could be a closer game than what people think. I did have Bills beating. I had -10 in that Tennessee, so I did cash in on that. I cashed in a little bit on that bad boy, but let's go. Hey, Shaq.
Thank you, Shaq Gamer, for the follow.
Let's go. Who's your team and where are you from? We like to get to know you a little bit. By the way, we had our first Jets fan earlier, Scotty.
I was listening while I was driving home, Chris. I did hear that.
So there you go.
I did hear that. Where's the Jets fan now?
I don't know. I think he might have bounced. He was he wanted to get his Jets talk in. Maybe he's still here. Hopefully you are, and you'll pop back in.
G-Girl gets back and she's like, "We're talking about the Jets, like Mets and Jets tonight. That's all we're talking about. That's why you can't leave, G-Girl. Don't ever leave us again." What
else do we have? So we have Milwaukee's Bills and over. Bills are not going to allow that trash. Well, we'll see. I think Miami's getting smoked, says Mackie. I wouldn't say smoked yet. Just we'll find out this weekend. But I think this game is closer. Ironically, Packers, Chicago moved from Wisconsin. Oh, nice. All right. There you go.
All right. Well, it's got to be great living to be a Packers fan in Chicago because they can't say anything to you.
Well, you're going to be right at home with Milwaukee's best as our resident Packers crew. So welcome in, and let's all give Shaq Gamer a nice warm welcome. All right. So next up, we have the Lions and the Vikings, which this might be fireworks all over it. Lions at the Vikings in Minnesota. Vikings -6, so favored by win this game by at least 6. 52.5 is the over-under. Scotty, if there's one thing I love about Lions games, I love soaring that over each and every single time because you know for a fact there's going to be a lot of points in any Lions game you watch. And you won't have primetime Kirk Cousins playing in this game. This game will be normal, regular Kirk Cousins on a Sunday morning or afternoon. What is this, an early or an afternoon game?
I think it's 11.
It's 11. So yeah, you got Kirk Cousins back at home for a morning game.
Morning game.
So yeah. So here you go. I think the Vikings should do enough to keep this one in a nice pace, but I think this is a high scoring back and forth game overall. Scotty, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. Obviously, the Lions have been in 2 of those games already, scoring a ton of points, giving up a ton of points. Vikings, obviously 2 very different weeks from week 1 to week 2 when you look at winning 23-7 over the Packers and losing 24-7 to the Eagles on Monday night.
Complete opposite.
This line, Chairman, I wanted to pull the trigger on the Lions, but I'm like, I feel like the public's now going to be on the Lions. They've looked pretty good in 2 weeks. You know, even their loss to now the world's greatest team, the Eagles. I heard as I was driving home, Chris, someone said the Eagles are for sure a top 3 team in the league. I'll get into that later, Chris, but let's just say I'm not there yet with the Eagles either. I like them a lot, but top 3, let's slow down. Anyway, this game, I don't have a great feel on anything. I think the Lions keep this close. If I was to bet it, I'd take Lions +6. But I think a lot of times people see, especially on a Monday night, they see a team that looks awful like the Vikings, and then they can take a team that's coming off a win like the Lions did last week and get 6 points. The public are going to be all over the Lions, which is weird to say out loud in a sentence. That the public, I think, are going to be in the Lions in this game, and so I could see the Vikings maybe pulling away and winning this one, but it should be an entertaining game, I think. You know, hopefully, maybe, you know, Kirk Cousins gets his times mixed up and he thinks it's prime time and he throws like 8 picks like he did on Monday night.
What is it about prime time that Kirk Cousins just can't play? Like, it's like clockwork. I mean, just when I'm like, they have a favorable matchup, I feel like they're in a good place. Like this season, last season, any season with Kirk Cousins, and you're like, oh, don't worry, he's gonna shake that trend. Nope. He never does. It's always the same primetime Kirk Cousins.
Chris, as we got off on Sunday night, got off our show on Sunday night. Usually we talk for a while, but Chris was super tired. But I was like, oh, you didn't have a great week in your pick'em. He's like, yeah, but I'll get 2 tomorrow. I think, but most people will because I got the Bills and Vikings. And I'm like, oh, I mean, I got the Bills, but I got the Eagles. He's like, no, I feel real good about the Vikings. I'm
yeah,
like, okay.
No, there's 2 teams that are dead to me, Scotty. I'm done with Matt Ryan and the Colts, and I'm done with primetime Kirk Cousins. Those are the 2 things that I'm like, that's it, no more. And they stink. Like,
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
Yeah, it's not great. We got a couple things in the chat here. What do we got here? Super entertaining game. Watching this for sure, says Mackie. Chairman, how often do the Lions lose by more than 6?
I just looked at last season, Chairman, 8 times. Half their games last year.
There you go.
They lost by more than 6.
Daddy Campbell, Vikings are just a home team, guys, says Seven Sly. What's up, Seven Sly? How we doing? They play better in Minnesota. Minnesota is a great home field advantage, man. That stadium goes nuts for their Vikings, especially they got that skull and they got the chant, they got everything. That's a fun atmosphere for sure. What else do we have here in the chat? Kirk Choke Cousins, says Mackie D. Yeah, he's got that Reggie emote going.
I don't know if I saw a tweet the other day or after this game, and I don't know if it's just with the Vikings or for his career. But I think either with the Vikings or for his career, Kirk Cousins is the epitome of mid. They are exactly 500. Like his record is 500 exactly. Oof. Same wins, same losses. I'd still rank him slightly above. He's barely in the top half, but he's not like, he's not 16. He's closer to like 14 for me.
Yeah, I think he's just such a roller coaster when it comes to those prime times. Another thing that G Girl brings up, which is also a good point. I wasn't impressed the other night, especially defensively. Defensively was a little bit of a concern for me on the Viking side overall, because I was high on their defense. I felt like their secondary was looking good, but there was kind of some questions whether or not their pass rush was going to be able to get to the quarterback and then stay healthy. Well, I mean, I felt like there was some struggles just in a lot of areas on both ends. So I think that's something to keep an eye on as well with the Vikings, that if they need to tighten up some screws on that end for sure. Be consistent.
Mayday, what's up? Yeah, that's true. Mayday would have the best thought on this. He's like, mark my words, since both these teams played the Eagles, the Lions are pesky. They will win.
Ooh, Mayday. Welcome in, Mayday.
Which, if you look at those 2 games, I agree that's the takeaway, but you can only take week to week. If the NFL was predictable, it'd be easy, Chris. What's great about the NFL is a lot of times it's not predictable. What you see one week from a team, you may not see the next week.
Yep.
And vice versa.
Ooh, St. Brown and Diggs, just devastating, says STG. Yeah, this could be a fun one. Guys, if you're looking for fireworks this weekend, this could be your game to watch. Keep an eye on the Lions-Vikings. This over-under 52.5 seems high. I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't be shocked if this soared way over that.
What is that? Basically, that's saying, I'm trying to do math here. It's like what? 30?
31-21 is 52 points. 31-21 Vikings.
No, but it's only a 6-point spread. So they're basically saying 28, 21, 28, somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there.
That's not even enough. 28, 24 is what I meant. They're basically somewhere around there, 29, 24.
I could see more points than that in this game. I could see this getting into like the mid 30s and the mid 20s for both these teams. I'm leaning on the higher end of the over under. I'm with you, SDG. I'm kind of on that one too. This one's going to be fun. Next up, Packers and Bucks. All right. It's on this picture, man.
I had to use this.
You had to use this picture. You know what you should have done? You should have done the homeless Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, yeah.
Where he looks slicked back and he looks homeless, and the Tom Brady where this exact picture. But man, Tom Brady, woo.
He looked. I mean, he's not looking great, which makes me need to. Code yellow, but actually I have to go vomit because I just saw Tom's face.
Oh, code yellow in the chat. Spam it. Guys, hit that follow button if you have not already. My name is Chris. That was Scott. You're your host for the Action Lab. Guys, if you want to link your Amazon Prime and your Twitch account, you can subscribe to this channel for free. Absolutely free. And you can get all the emotes. You could get no ads. You could get all the good things. So go ahead, ! Prime in the chat. There's a link that'll show you how to do it. And we would love to have you as part of our community. And we're starting to get more benefits for all of you Prime subscribers. So make sure you guys go and subscribe for free. Now, this is an interesting game. Tom, I'm going to throw my tablet. Yeah. Football wife. Tom Scotty brought this up last weekend. He's always blaming everybody. He's always got, whether it's somebody else, his offense, his wide receivers, his coaching. I mean, there's always someone he's blaming. It's never his fault. Yeah, exactly. Tom going to lose the game just like he's losing his wife, says Mayday. Oof, bruh. That's rough. He skipped some time. I mean, he's still dealing with some of that stuff, so that's interesting. But Bucks are favored 1.5 in this one. I think this might have moved potentially. Let me double check. It's still 1.5. So close game here. The Packers obviously coming off a big win. The RELAX game, right? Like you lose the first game, you got the relax, and then you got the step back up, right? So the Packers looked good last week. It was against the Bears, I get it. So this will be a better challenge against the Bucks. Over under is 42 in this one. So, probably an average scoring game. Nothing too high, nothing too low. There will be some good scoring in Tampa Bay. So there's a lot of things about this game that I probably won't mess around with when it comes to betting it, but I think it might be kind of an interesting game that there's deficiencies on both sides of the football, right? You got a lot of injuries early on. If you haven't seen our latest TikTok, one of our latest TikToks, go check our socials out. There's a TikTok talking about week 2 going in with all of the injuries that Tampa Bay was sustaining. It was like a list of 10 dudes, including Tom Brady, who's not injured, but taking time away. And it's only week 2 when there's all these injuries and distractions and things going on. Leonard Fournette hasn't really done much when it comes to scoring touchdowns. So there's been a lot of, deficiencies when it comes to the Bucks. They're still 2-0. And there's been some deficiencies with Aaron Rodgers in the first week, trying to find his receivers and get in a rhythm. Now they are potentially in a better rhythm. They got Adams going, there's some plus and minuses on each side, which makes this 1.5 point spread super interesting to me. But Scotty, what do you think about this one?
I mean, Chris, first of all, did you ever think we'd see the day and age where an over-under for a Rodgers-Brady matchup is 42? I mean, we're making fun of the 38.5 on tomorrow night, on Thursday night.
Between the Browns and the Steelers.
Yeah. Tomorrow is Trubisky versus Brissett. Okay. And there's only a 3.5. What is that? 3.5 point difference in the over/under there. I feel like this game is going to be tight. I feel like it's going to be low scoring. I think they're right that it's going to be. Obviously, you look at the Bucks. You're going to be missing Mike Evans. I think Godwin's going to be out again this week. We'll see if Julio Jones is able to play. Who is Tom going to throw the ball to? I mean, listen. I know you look at the final score last week against the Saints, and you're like, oh, the Bucks played pretty well, and they did defensively, and they have defensively in the first 2 weeks, but offensively, I think they have the third highest percentage in the league of going 3 and out on their offensive possessions through 2 weeks, Chris. Their offense is not clicking right now. Like, Brady looks like an angry person throughout,
throwing tablets,
he is
yelling at people,
at somebody. You see how he looks in press conferences. I don't know what happened to the fat in his cheeks. I know he didn't have a lot, but literally it's sucked in now, Chris. It's literally sucked. I don't even know how you do that facially.
It's Zoolander.
Yeah, but at least his lips aren't even like out. So I don't know he's going for the Zoolander, but it's not even working as well as Zoolander could do it.
I don't know, man.
But honestly, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. That's why I'm trying to teaser again, Chris, and I took the Packers in a teaser. I bumped them up to I saw it earlier at 2, so I bumped them up to +8 in a teaser. I think I paired them with oh my goodness. I paired them with, don't tell me, Chris. It was close to being the Broncos, Chris, but I went against the Broncos and I paired them with another team. Who was that other team, Chris? You have my picks, right?
Let me double check. I thought. Let me see. Hold on.
I didn't go with the Broncos because I could see the Broncos just dropping the ball completely.
You had +8, and +8 for Green Bay and for Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta's +2.
We'll get to the.
That game isn't necessarily one we're going to feature, Chris, but I like Atlanta, and they've had 2 games they kept close. I know it was a late comeback and kind of fluky, but they also should have won week 1 in a game they gave away. So I like Atlanta +8 in a teaser combined with the Packers. Who wins this game? I don't know. It's not going to be. And if you like defense and you like frustrating offense and quarterbacks yelling at their players, this is the game for you.
You ever remember that Saturday Night Live where he was like, what's the dude that was like, previewing the hottest clubs? He's like, oh, the hottest club is blah blah blah, and it's like, like we should have that for NFL games here, where he breaks down exactly. It's like Bill Hader, I think, was the guy that did it. Yeah, and he broke down all the hottest clubs and why you need Stefan. Yeah, exactly, Chairman Stefan. We need to have a Stefan for the NFL. This game has everything: yelling, throwing tablets, and guys with weird tattoos. Like. Yeah, that's what we need for this one. Exactly.
By the way, ayahuasca is not a drug. It's a plant.
Roger.
We have to have that. Maybe we have a Stefan segment. We have to have something like that for sure. There you go. Bucks and Packers 1.5 points. Packs.
I like it.
The Packs.
I like it.
Did he accidentally eat a strawberry, says Cuban? Probably. It's not in his diet. Father Time has never been defeated, says Ishta. Squan, Packers get blown out again. I can feel it.
How do celebrities not see that almost 100% of the time getting work done on your face looks awful?
Oh man,
it's like they're blind to this, and they're like, oh, do they not see how awful it looks and how obvious it is? And clearly Brady's had something done here, or he's just literally starving himself into a skeleton.
Yeah,
one of the two.
No, it's oh man, maybe grow a beard to hide it. I don't know. Maybe that's a way to go. He looks like sucking on a lemon. Brady kind of looks like all those actresses who get weird face procedures, says Cuban. Yeah, when the plastic surgery's been like, wow, you look great.
Right? Like, no one says that.
Yeah.
Cuban, I thought that was a picture of Meg Ryan. You throw a little blonde hair on there? Oh, yeah, that's Meg Ryan for sure.
Meg Ryan, no doubt.
Half the people in here are like, who's Meg Ryan?
Shaq says, it's the fact that both QBs can throw bombs. 43-0 Packers in the over, says Milwaukee's. Yeah. So, yeah, interesting game for sure. This game has everything. Yelling quarterbacks, human pylons, and referee that sounds like Morgan Freeman. There you go.
Who's the ref for that game? Who sounds like Morgan Freeman?
I don't. Is it?
I guess I've never paid attention to that.
Yeah.
Who's calling that game, Chairman?
Brady failing the 10-year challenge.
10-year challenge. I mean,
yeah. Next up, Jags and Chargers. Chargers favored here by 7. Now, this was a teaser candidate potentially for me. For the Chargers, like I think the Chargers will win this game. I think teasing it down to like 1 would be kind of. It's still on my radar. I still think this will be a decent game. Squan says Chargers by 1 million. But Jags have played considerably better than we would have thought they would early on, given the fact that, they've, got rid of Urban Meyer. They had all the fluctuation last year. They're coming into this season. They have been competing this year a little bit better than they typically do. So Jags going to LA for this one. Chargers still favored by 7. 47.5 is the over under in this one. But Chargers overall are pretty much, the favorite. Now, there are some issues with Justin Herbert and how the rib injury is going to play a role in everything, because honestly, he didn't look like he was in a great situation in that last game when he got hit in those ribs. At one point, he threw the ball straight into the ground and just looked like he couldn't even function. And then the very next play, he throws a dart down the middle of the field where literally, Scotty, you and I were sitting at that table at the bar, like, only one person on the field could have caught that ball. That was an insane throw.
That had to be absolutely perfect on a dime, on a rope, 30 yards down the field. It was his best throw of the game.
And it was after he threw that dart into the ground because he couldn't run.
That first down on like 3rd and 1.
So Herbert's not going to be 100%. Do I think he plays? Yes. It sounds like he's in a good place to play. To the extent of what he's feeling, I don't know. And also, you got to keep an eye. If he takes like a shot, if he gets hit, if he gets a sack, that affects this game. That's the only reason why I didn't bet this game, because normally the Chargers should be good enough, even with a hurt Herbert, to win this game. I just don't want to gamble on him not taking any sacks and not re-injuring something or not like aggravating something from last game. So I like the Chargers still in this one. If you're taking that one example of that shot that he took down the middle of the field, injured, a week of healing, which isn't much, I still think he's able to get it done, and they'll put a game plan together where he's there. They'll try to protect him as much as possible. I think they eke out a win against the Jags, but don't love to bet this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to bet. It sounds, from everything I've heard, it sounds like Herbert's okay and he'll play. Well, the ironic thing about this is if he does play, he might be getting a shot to numb the pain, which is the same shot that the Chargers doctors are getting sued over for screwing up a couple years ago with Tyrod Taylor, which allowed Herbert to make his debut and take the team's reins from there. So I think Herbert will be fine, but I don't want to bet a game where there's a little unknown, especially with at the quarterback position like that. I also, Chris, somebody clip this right now. I'm ready to say it. This is a wild card matchup. This is going to happen in the wild card round. We're going to have the Jags winning the AFC South against the top wild card team in the Chargers in a 4-5 matchup in the wild card round. So this is a playoff preview game right here, Chris, because they're going to face each other in the wild card round. Clip that right now.
Clip it.
I think the Jags are sneaky better than most people think. And the reason I wouldn't even bet, I don't even know if I bet the Chargers. If I were to bet this game, it'd be the Jags, only because the Chargers, even sometimes when they look really good, you think they should win by 3 touchdowns. They only seem to win by like 6 or 4 or whatever. The Chargers just Charger, Chris. So I don't like them as heavy favorites a lot of times. But I think the Jaguars I think the Jaguars are the best team in the AFC South. Now, if they weren't in the AFC South, would they be a playoff team? I don't know. But in that division, tell me a team that's better than them in that division.
Squad, not to be disrespectful, but no.
That's why I said clip it, because I know people
clip it.
And this, after 2 weeks, I'm calling this. I'm calling my shot. All of them are better? All of them? The Texans are better than the Jaguars? The Colts, who just lost 24-0 to the Jags, are better?
The Colts, man.
The Titans, who lost at home to the Giants and then got their shit kicked in 41-7 at Buffalo, are better?
Roger.
Those teams are all better than Jacksonville right now. Jacksonville should be 2-0. If they weren't awful, if they didn't do their best Denver Bronco impersonation in the red zone week 1, they'd be 2-0.
You're not wrong on those takes, and that division isn't. I mean,
terrible.
It's not great.
It's terrible.
It's not great. What else do we have? So he looks very. There's arguments for this, and it's scary to think that there's arguments for. If only we had Dr. J's husband in here to hear this and clip this and throw this out there. We'll catch up with her at some point, I hope. But yeah, no, like you're not
matchup. I promise you.
That's an interesting division though. And I could see the Jags putting in some work. Colts and Titans.
I think they're plus 300 right now to win the division, Chris. Make that bet.
Plus 300. Colts and Titans will get it together, says Squand. Okay, maybe not the Texans. Colts.
I could see the Colts actually more than the Titans. I think the Titans are in a world of trouble this year.
Well, I talked about this.
The Colts more than the Titans.
I talked about this earlier with the running backs in the league. I talked about the running backs not being as effective as they typically are, from year to year. I mean, I think there's two or three running backs that have scored, I think, 17 on a standard league, depending on your league scoring, have scored like 17 points up to this point, which is by far the lowest of any year that have ever recorded in fantasy football running backs stats or something crazy. Like running backs aren't as of and which brings me to the point where I don't think Derrick Henry can save the Titans anymore. Like they've always banked on him to save them all the like. I don't think that's their. I mean, he's a running back that demands a lot of carries in a throwing league, right? And it just doesn't mix. I don't think he's the savior anymore that he used to be 2 years ago.
Even last year when he was healthy, that first half he was dominant. I'm worried about the run game. They don't have great weapons at the wide receiver position with AJ Brown out of the mix now. Ryan Tannehill can't get it done on his own, and that defense looks like it's aging quickly and just not up to snuff. I mean, I don't know how you can feel good about a team that lost at home to the Giants and then lost by 34 the next week. I know it was against the Bills, but you lost by 34 and put up 7 points. I can't feel good about that squad.
Ishta Comic, great show, guys. Heading out. Have a great night, Ishta. We'll catch you back here Sunday night. We'll catch you back here Sunday night. Can't wait to have you back in the lab. Let's all give him a nice J.R. Smith goodbye. Next up, Chiefs and Colts. Oof, the Colts. You want to talk about a guy that this is one of my teams that are dead to me, Scotty. One of my teams that are dead to me, and that's and Matt Ryan has always been on my list. He's always been on my list, and he continues to be on that list. This might be a quick one. We don't have to cover this one too long, but I think that there could be some bounce back from the Colts, but do I think they do? If I'm putting head-to-head these two quarterbacks to win this game, I mean, it's hard to go against Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs in the chat. Chiefs. Colts are going to 0-3, but they'll come back. LOL. Everyone's kind of on the Chiefs.
They keep having. They got to play the AFC. Well, all those teams have to play the AFC West. That's the good news for AFC West has such a tough schedule amongst themselves, but they do get to play the AFC South, so that's a nice benefit, Chris. Yeah, I did not bet on this one either, though, Chris. I'm like cautiously weirdly worried. Let's keep in mind Pittman and Pierce, the top two wide receivers for Indy, were out last week. It sounds like both could potentially be back, especially Pittman. It sounds like he'll be back. He's by far their number one. For the first time this year, it sounds like Darius Leonard. No, I won't call him Shaq Leonard. I don't care if he wants us to or not. You can't change your name from Darius to Shaquille.
Nope.
You can change it from Darius to shorten it or whatever, but you can't change it to Shaquille.
Nope.
I'm not going to call you by that name. So I'll just call him Leonard. It sounds like he might play. So obviously they were embarrassed last week coming off that. But you get the Chiefs with some added time, 10 days, Andy a little more time to prep. In a game, they, like I said, they didn't play great on Thursday night against the Chargers, but they got the W. I expect their offense to dominate the Colts. The Chiefs should win this game and should win this game by multiple scores, but somehow there could be a backdoor cover here that just ruins you. So now I think it's moved to 5.5 I've seen recently, Chris.
Which is crazy. It's fascinating what a lot of these lines end up moving, and you're like, what? The Colts? The Colts going into the season had a bunch of hype. Now everyone's jumping off the bandwagon because they've looked so bad in the first 2 weeks. And now it's all right, well, no, they need to work some things out. Now they do have, like you mentioned, a couple guys coming back, which, they haven't really used Jonathan Taylor to the full extent of what they can utilize him.
Oh, he went for a buck. He went for a ton week 1. Week 2, they didn't use him because they were down early and often.
Yeah, and so it's but that's why you got Matt Ryan, isn't it? So you can kind of air it out a little bit and stretch the field so you can open up the running game, and that wasn't happening. That's not happening.
I'm surprised by Matt Ryan's play. Matt Ryan looks a little cooked, Chris. Matt Ryan looks like
he's been cooked for a decade.
Done. I don't know. A decade. He won MVP 5 years ago.
Well, yeah, sure. Yeah,
but let's just ignore that. He's been cooked for a decade, minus that MVP award. But no, Russ is going to be fine despite never getting an MVP vote.
Oh my goodness! If you were asked Russ whether or not he would want a Super Bowl at the end of his career or an MVP at the end of his career, I think he might pick one over the other.
MVP. Did you read that article that all he cares about is MVP at this point?
Matt Ryan
says
to me.
The right things, but he's not that guy.
Super Bowl destroyed Matt Ryan's soul. His soul left his body after that Super Bowl. It's true.
Might have.
Roger.
But yeah, so I if I'm leaning anywhere, it's the Chiefs. I don't love the spread, but I think they just win the game straight up. I mean, that's just probably where I'm at. Rams Cardinals here. We have a matchup that has typically given the Rams some trouble. We saw this last season where the Rams were very dominant, and then they played a Cardinals team and it surprised them a little bit, which is probably why this line is where it's at. There's for some reason the Cardinals play the Rams very well. It's in Arizona. The Rams do have overall, I think, a team that can beat the Cardinals here, but 3.5 is a spread. I didn't mess around with this one because there's so much that I didn't really want to mess around with when it came to the matchup itself. Cardinals, obviously Kyler Murray. It's Call of Duty weekend. Is that over? So he's probably back on track with studying again. Maybe. I don't know. We'll find out. And then the Rams have kind of been, Matt Stafford's been dealing with a potential elbow injury, but didn't look great week 1, looked a little bit better week 2. Interesting matchup. I mean, obviously the Rams, I think, will get better as the season goes on. They started to get Robinson a little bit more of some love last week. So they started to give, Allen Robinson was kind of feeling a lot of media, a lot of stuff in the media about not performing, especially with his fantasy owners. They kind of got him back on track last week. So Rams defense needs to get some pressure on Kyler here. Do they do it, Scotty?
These are two teams I want to fade, Chris. I don't love the way either of these teams have played in 2 weeks. I know they're both 1-1. I know the Cardinals had a miraculous comeback last week against the Raiders. Rams up big and almost choked away against the Falcons, but I haven't been overly impressed with either of these squads so far this year. So this isn't a game I have a great feel. If I were to bet it, I don't think the Rams should be favored in Arizona by 3.5. I'd lean Arizona in this game, but I can't trust Arizona at all. And it's you say like they play each other really closely, but the reason I can't bet Arizona is actually I can't get it out of my mind that wild card playoff round last year, Chris, where the Rams played the Cardinals and beat them 34-11 in a game. I've never seen an offense as bad as that Arizona offense in that game. I can't get that out of my mind. So while I lean Cardinals here, I can't get that picture out of my mind. So it's a non-bet for me, but I expect this to be a close game.
Yeah, no, I mean, division rivalry games, especially between these two, tend to be pretty close, which is why I think this is also reflected in this. But yeah, it's just a scary game to bet. I'm not betting it, but I want the Rams to win. I do. I just want Kyler to just sink. But I mean,
JK's like, I'm an Arizona fan and I can't trust him. Yeah. Cuban Rams greatness fell off the stage with that lady. I didn't want to laugh at that one, but I couldn't help myself. I hope she's okay. I haven't got an update on her. I hope that photographer or whatever she was is okay. If you don't know, just Google it. Parade lady fallen Matthew Stafford. Just look that up. But yeah, both these teams have not impressed me so far this year, Chris.
It's going to be real funny if the Niners are forced to start Mr. Irrelevant at quarterback this year, guys. Says Stacka. What else do we?
Who's Mr. Irrelevant?
I think Mr.
I know that's like the last pick of the draft, but I don't know. Was it this year's?
It's Brock Purdy. Is that who it is?
I've heard of Brock Purdy. I don't know if he's
Iowa State quarterback Brock Purdy.
Okay, he was Mr. Irrelevant this year. I didn't even know who that was. Mr. Irrelevant, if you don't know, was the
last pick
in the NFL draft. The 7 rounds, the very last pick in the 7th round is always called Mr. Irrelevant. Brock Purdy. And we'll get into the Niners Broncos game. It's got to be one of these next ones here, Chris.
Yep, we're going to get into that as well. Let's dive in. And lean Cardinals, lots of turnovers, says Squand. Rams greatness fell off the stage with the lady, not Rondo's Broncos. Says Canada Relief. What's up? By the way, welcome in, Canada Relief. We've missed you. Brock Purdy, Cards 0-3, says Canada.
They won last week, so I don't know how they could be 0-3.
She got canceled for younger tweets, so it's acceptable to laugh. There you go.
Perfect. Okay.
All right. 49ers and Broncos. Like, literally, Scotty, I've seen expert picks from various media platforms, ESPN, Fox Sports, all sorts of, that are like all back and forth on this one. Now, this one opened up as Broncos favorites. This was prior to the Trey Lance news. And then Trey Lance gets hurt. He's done. He's not going to be playing. So now you got Jimmy Garoppolo coming in, Mr. Handsome, Mr. Pretty boy coming in, which in my opinion gives them the better chance to win now. I mean, not long term. Obviously, there's a higher ceiling with Trey Lance, but currently right now, Jimmy Garoppolo wins games, and he's established. He's a veteran in the league, and he knows how to compete and win games. So, from that standpoint, that's a big reason why this line shifted. Now, Trey Lance was very volatile when he was, in the lineup when, they decided to go with him early in the season. We saw a lot of that volatility. We saw some struggles in Chicago with the Chicago Bears. Then we saw a bounce back, but then he got hurt. Long story short, you got a Broncos team here that is hosting this 49ers team, who I think has one of the better rosters in the league. I think they're defensively pretty solid. I think offensively, they got some nice weapons and a nice offensive line, good defensive line, good pass rush. They got a little bit of everything on this 49ers roster, which is why I'm worried a little bit. They're definitely going to be the better coach team, because the biggest thing here is the fact that Nathaniel Hackett has been in over his head for 2 straight weeks. And the big question here in Denver is he going to figure it out? It's only 2 weeks. We got I don't know. And that's the scary part of this game. This is why initially I'm not touching this game. I'm not betting on this game. I don't know what's going to happen here. I think that if I'm leaning honestly as just a straight up football fan, I think the Niners have a better overall roster. And I think that they are the better team to vie for this weekend's this week 3 matchup.
Yeah, Chris, a couple reference points that aren't my opinion, other people's. Talking about Steve Fezzik, very known bettor out in Vegas, very world-renowned sports bettor. He bumped up San Francisco's rating by 3 points. They're 3 points better as a team
with Jimmy G
over Trey Lance, which is substantial, quite frankly. I don't know if we've ever seen a team go from their starter to their backup and get bumped up 3 points initially like that. And in fact, he thinks it's such a bump that he has San Francisco ranked number 3 in his overall power ratings, Vegas power ratings. He has them as the 3rd best team behind KC and Buffalo.
I mean, it's not shocking. I mean, they made the NFC Championship with a very good roster last year,
and
and
it's kind of surprising they made the NFC Championship last year. But yes, they did. So it's not crazy. He has them basically 4.5 points better than an average team in the NFL, and right behind them he has Tampa Bay at 4, Green Bay at 3.5, Philly at 3. Where KC 6 and Buffalo has separated all the way to 9. That's how dominant Buffalo has been through 2 weeks, being 9 points better than an average team. So with that, another really, really weird trend in this, Chris, is local Broncos writer posted on one site at least. So the line's only 1.5, right? So it's very close to a pick'em. Yeah. It's very close to just whoever you think's going to win, you should bet on. So on this one site, the public has bet 61% on the Broncos money line. So if you're just betting money line, 61% is on the Broncos, and it's only plus 105. So it's not like you're getting paid out a ton. But then if you go to the spread, 63% of the people that have bet on the spread have bet on San Francisco. It's only 1.5.
It's weird.
It doesn't make any sense at all. By the way, all the money is getting dumped on the over. His is listed at 44.5. We have 45 here. So because of that, I like the under in this game. I actually like Chris, and I might add a bet myself. That's not one of my picks of the week. I want to tease. I'll double up on Atlanta with a teaser with Denver as well. I think Denver and a teaser bump them up to 7.5. I don't think they lose substantially to a team. I think this feels like a 23-20 game here, Chris. One way or the other.
And here's my thought too, and I've thought about this a lot. Now, there's been a lot of negative aspects of what is wrong in Denver, but if you we've talked a lot. I talked earlier about Buffalo coming back down to earth, right? Eventually, it's going to happen. They're not going to be able to sustain 40-point blowouts of everybody. It's not real.
Yeah.
It's not real that the Denver Broncos are going to have 15 penalties a game and not be able to score on goal line carries, as much as they have it. They missed out on so many touchdowns on the 2-yard line or 1-yard line. That's not realistic that they're going to continue. If it is, then I'm going to lose my mind. They are going to regress to the mean they are going to regress to the mean upwards, where I think Buffalo regresses downwards. It happens. That's one of the reasons why I'm not completely sure the Broncos aren't as bad. They've had terrible situations happen in these first weeks when it comes to penalties, when it comes to goal lines, when it comes to the coaching decisions, it can only get better, right? So from that standpoint, I think the Broncos are a better team than what they're showing. They just have been really in a dark place for 2 weeks that I think will come and regress to the mean and get better eventually. So whether it's this week or next week, I think it'll get there. It's just, I hope it's this week against San Francisco. So that's where I'm at here. That's why I'm semi-hopeful as a Broncos fan that they can get.
But again, through 2 games, historically, there's a legitimate argument, and probably a very more than legitimate argument, that Hackett's first 2 games as head coach has been the worst head coaching debut. And I know he won one of those games in NFL history.
Oh, it's bad. I mean, the big decision to kick the field goal as opposed to go for it was, if you watch that last game, arguably that second game was worse than the first with the decision making and some of the things that happened. They're at home and they can't get some of those plays called when they need.
Get the play in.
There was a
They're
point.
Undisciplined. I mean, all the
penalties, and then
so undisciplined.
There was a point where we didn't even have a kick returner we had to burn a timeout because we didn't have a kick returner on the field. Like, those things aren't going to be happening, I would hope, as the season goes on, which is why I think the Broncos will regress up to the mean of not being bad and being like a better team.
But Chris, part of that, my hesitation with what you're saying is, do you remember the Broncos last year starting 3-0?
Against bad teams, and then wheels falling off once they started playing real teams.
They looked dominant against those bad teams. Guess what? They've played 2 bad teams this year. Really bad teams, right?
Yep.
And they've looked not even close to dominant. They've looked bad. So, yes, they've had these opportunities against bad teams, but what happens when they play good teams? Are they going to have those same even opportunities present themselves? He couldn't even throw 50% completion rate or whatever it was. I don't know what he ended up against the Texans, but I'm worried.
They can move the ball. They can move the ball. I mean, overall,
but that was against 2 very bad teams.
True. I mean, right now, their defense has kept them in games too. I mean, you figure their defense overall
great last year, weeks 1 through 3, as a brand new quarterback in the system.
Sure. So again, these are preseason games because they didn't get any preseason games already. Broncos 3rd in defense overall, right? Yards allowed right now. So there's some positive aspects of what they can do. I think they'll get there, and I think they'll be better as the season goes on.
Against Geno Smith and Davis Mills,
it's fine. I'll take it. I mean,
I'm not saying they're not a good defense, but like, I don't like pulling stats. It's so weird. Like, you look at fantasy football and they're like, oh, they're going up against the 6th best defense against the run. I'm like, it's after 2 games.
Well, yeah, I think, they should be doing it against Davis Mills. They should be a top defense against those teans. If they weren't, then I'd be worried.
And they've looked great on defense in those games, minus the first half against Seattle.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the second half, yeah, they I mean, if you take away that.
Before we get to picks of the week, by the way, here, there are 2 more games I wanted to put in here, but we should definitely cover real quick, at least in some fashion.
Yeah.
One is the Bengals and Jets. Bengals Jets, super interesting. There's actually 3 games I still want to cover, Chris.
Let's do it.
Bengals Jets is going to be interesting. Bengals -5 at New York. Obviously, the Bengals have underachieved after being AFC champs last year, 0-2. Thank you so much,
Evie Dog.
But
hey, who's your team?
Somehow you were able to cover up one of my faces at this moment, Chris, with the Shaq shimmy there. I like it.
Who's your team and where are you from, Evie? Like to get to know you a little bit.
Bengals Jets. You have the Jets riding high off that miracle comeback win last week in Cleveland. Let's go. And the Bengals reeling a little bit here and a little lost offensively. The offensive line clearly that they tried to address, and we gave them credit for addressing in the offseason, hasn't at least panned out thus far. Obviously, we're 2 weeks in. There's a lot of weeks to play. I think they'll figure it out a little bit. And maybe this week they figure out, like, hey, let's run some more shallow routes. Let's get the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands. Let's get it in, like, I don't know, Jamar Chase's hands, who can be pretty good after the catch. Try something like that. So that's going to be an interesting one, honestly. I don't have a great feel on that one. You actually do, Chris.
I do.
You have it at 4.5, but it's almost the same number. 4.5 and 5 aren't drastically different.
No, it's not drastically different. I think, all right, I think the Bengals offense looked lost through a couple of weeks. And I mean, they had some flashes in the pan where they looked okay. But I mean, that was against TJ Watt and Micah Parsons, right? Those two players can devastate you. And, we talked a lot about the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line getting vastly improved. Well, maybe considering the fact that, they're still working out some kinks and getting kind of used to the flow of playing full NFL season and getting a test of TJ Watt and Micah Parsons in the week 1 and week 2, it's going to get a lot easier against a team that doesn't have those kind of guys, and that's the New York Jets. They don't have as good of a pass rush by far. So that's going to give Burrow a lot more time to pass the ball. That's going to give, more time for those wide receivers to get open. Joe Flacco, who, I don't expect him to have back-to-back performances like that. You want to talk about regressing back to the mean? I think
Flacco's like 3rd in the league in yards.
Yeah, that's not going to... If he's 3rd in passing in yards in like 2 more weeks, let me know. Because I just don't know if he's going to get there. I think this is where he comes back down to earth. And I think this is where Cincy gets back on track. This is the get right spot for Cincinnati. I think they can cover this, and I think that they're in a good place when it comes to being able to handle any kind of defensive pressure. That offensive line isn't bad. They just need to get in a rhythm. So that's why I like Cincinnati a lot this week. -4.5. I think they win this game and get back in the mix.
That's fair. I feel like that should happen, but I'm hurt because I had them in a teaser where they basically just had to win against the Cowboys last week and they didn't. So they've hurt my feelings. Football wise, like, they're gonna lose 77-3 to the Jets. I'll bet against that if you'd like.
I'll take
football wise, they better do something. I think they will, and I think the Jets have played pretty well. The Jets, yardage wise, dominated week 1 against Baltimore, even in a loss that didn't look very close. The yardage was, the Jets had way more yardage than Baltimore in that game. So I think the Jets, the reason I'm nervous is the Jets are probably better than people realize. I know they got lucky to win last week, for sure. Without that onside kick, they don't get it happen. If it doesn't happen, or if Nick Chubb falls down at the 1-yard line instead of scores, that game's over. But I just need to see. I need to see a consistent performance from the Bengals before I'm gonna bet a road favorite that's 4.5 or 5 against anybody.
Yeah. By the way, I want to get to EV Dog Pittsburgh. We got another Steelers. Steelers are racking up. Reckoning, Devil Doc. Now we got EV. You guys got the terrible towels are starting to swing around in the ActionLab here soon. A lot of Steelers fans love it. I like Cincy and New England spreads, says Squand. They better do something, says Football Wife. They hurt my feelings too. Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons why I like Cincinnati. The other team that I like a lot is Atlanta here. Atlanta, you have in a teaser +8. I mean, obviously I love them at 1.5, so why not love them at 8? I think that Atlanta is in a great place because Geno Smith, since those first 2 quarters of the Broncos game, has done not really much the rest of the time. Now, I don't believe in Geno Smith. I don't think he's a great quarterback, but I do love the way Atlanta's been playing. Like, Mariota's been playing some good ball. They've been getting the ball to Drake London's had a nice breakout year so far in these first couple weeks, getting a lot of targets. I think Atlanta's been able to put up a ton of points in the first couple games. They've been competitive. And I think the Falcons, for being one of the worst teams in the league, They remind me, I mean, right now of like a Detroit Lions of last year. Like, they're somehow putting together some competitive games, scoring a ton of points, yet they're not supposed to be. And you know, they're coming off a lucky cover against the Rams thanks to a punt block touchdown. I mean, that was pretty, close there. Jamal Adams is done for the Seahawks. I think the Atlanta Falcons like to run the ball a lot, so I think Jamal Adams being out kind of hurts some of the defensive structure for defending some of the things that Atlanta likes to do offensively. I don't know. I like Atlanta here. I think they win outright. I would love them at +8. You have them in the teaser, so I love that even more. But I like Atlanta here.
Yeah, part of me, Chris, wants Seattle to go 1-16, get the number 1 pick, find their franchise quarterback, be successful, and their one win be against Russ. A little part of me wants that.
They already won their Super Bowl, man. They're done. They've peaked. Week 1.
They're done.
They peaked.
But the Broncos are also done talking about Super Bowl. They're both done on Super Bowl. What's up, Fireball?
What's up,
Coming with the swag?
How we doing, Fireball? Sending all your folks in, walking in like champions. Welcome, welcome. My name is Chris. This is Scott. We are your host for the Action Lab. For all you new folks coming in, go give Fireball a follow if you have not already. And
Sports games it up. Were you playing Madden tonight, Fireball? What were you doing?
Yeah,
a little Madden action, I would assume, but
have a good night, Fireball, and then welcome to
streaming Madden NFL 18.
Welcome
Apparently
to
it says in our chat, Chris.
Yeah,
I'm learning a lot tonight.
Little automation, What's up with the slow start for Kyle Pitts? Says JK.
That's gonna be a portion of my coming in hot.
There we go. We'll save it. So anything else you wanted to talk about on Atlanta?
No, I agree with you. I think Atlanta's the right side if you're taking a side. The only thing is Seattle has such a good home field that I like it a lot more in a teaser because I don't think Seattle has the capability of blowing a team out by more than a touchdown. So for me, I like it in my teaser a lot more. That's why I'll probably double it up on teasers. Like I said, using them twice with Green Bay and with Denver. They're my favorite teaser pick of the week, though.
Yeah. And you have one other game on here.
Yes.
And that is
Carolina.
What do you like in Carolina here? What's in Carolina here has let me double check here. New Orleans Saints, who are coming off a loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the first time in the regular season. 40.5 is the current over/under, but you like Carolina to win this one
No, I don't like them to win.
Oh, you just like them to cover 3.
At least keep it within 3.
Okay.
I feel like this is going to be a push. Worst case scenario. It's in Carolina. I think New Orleans you're talking about is a perfectly average team. Fezzik has New Orleans ranked exactly at 0, which means they are perfectly average. He has Carolina -2. So he has these teams on a neutral field. He would rank New Orleans 2-point favorites. This is in Carolina. Or I'm sorry, not Carolina 2-point favorites, but New Orleans 2-point favorites. This is in Carolina +3. Get into that 3. If it was 2.5, I wouldn't touch it. At 3, I think I like it a lot. I think Carolina is still figuring things out with Baker. I think that offense is going to improve as we move on here. They've lost 2 very close games, like coin flip games. Like Carolina theoretically could be 2-0. They lost week 1 because a kicker hit like a 58-yard field goal at the end, a rookie kicker. They lost week 2 in a close matchup at New York with the Giants. I know the Giants aren't great, but they've been competitive in both. They could have won both those games, and if they are 2-0, this spread is probably closer to pick 'em. But because they lost both those games, it moves all the way to 3. I think there's good value there. It's not like I'm in love with Carolina by any means, and in fact, they're a little worse than I thought they would be coming into the season, because we both thought they were kind of like a sleeper playoff team in the NFC. I don't know if I feel that way right now, but give me Carolina +3 against a New Orleans team that offensively looked lost. It sounds like Jameis has some injuries. His body's beat up a little bit. He made some Jameis mistakes last week with some really bad picks, and they could not move the ball offensively at all. And they're a team that if you take 7 of their 8 quarters, they have not looked good offensively. In one quarter where they came back against Atlanta, they looked great, but I'm going to take the sample size of the 7 quarters over the 1 quarter. Give me a home Carolina team against a New Orleans team that I don't think is special by any means.
Yeah, no, I think I think that's in the realm of possibility with Carolina. We were kind of high on Baker in Carolina coming in with Christian McCaffrey. If he was healthy, how that team could potentially look. And I mean, they are still trying to figure it out. They got, again, new quarterback. I mean, technically, Christian McCaffrey is still ramping up, right? Just to full game speed.
He had right around, if not 100 yards rushing last week. He hasn't had a touchdown yet, so that's hurting him in fantasy a little bit. But he did have like 100 yards rushing last week, so he's ramping up. They need to still get him more involved in the passing game, and Baker will figure that out. I think eventually that he's a weapon. Baker hasn't figured out who his weapons are in Carolina, because he hasn't thrown to DJ Moore. He doesn't throw to McCaffrey enough. He focuses on like Robbie Anderson. No disrespect to Robbie Anderson, he's fine, but like that should be your number 3 option. Okay, Robbie's number 3. Stop throwing on the ball all the time. Diacola asked Chris, because we didn't touch on this game, the Monday night game, which we can talk about also on Sunday a little bit. But will Dallas do it in New York?
Well,
it's a Monday night game. G Girl is probably like, absolutely, Dallas will do it in New York. She is I think a Dallas fan, based off of, I saw a G Girl with a post. She got her nails for Cowboys Giants week this week. She got her nails painted Cowboy colors. Cowboy colors.
Love it. So there you go. Breaking news: G Girl is on the Dallas Cowboys bandwagon. So there you have it.
All in on Cowboys.
Casually average. That is the question, isn't it? I guess it is. Dable's coaching out. Sorry, it's scrolling on me. Out doing whatever the law firm at McCarthy and Moore can do. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. I hate McCarthy with a passion as a coach. Don't love him at all, but I'll give credit where credit is due. I did not think the Cowboys with Cooper Rush would. I was like, they may not win a game. And they went out and beat Cincinnati last week. So, I mean, if you're the Cowboys and you coming into the season and you start with Tampa Bay and Cincinnati and you're 1-1, you probably take that, right?
Like, oh yeah.
And now they also would say you have to beat New York, even on a Monday night on the road. So we'll see what happens. I think it'll be a close game. That's another teaser I would take. I'd take Cowboys in a teaser because I think you can get them up to 8.5, and I don't think the Giants offense can score enough to blow a team out by 8.5 points.
The over-under on this is 39 points. Cooper Rush still in, says G Girl. Yeah. As of right now, he is still in.
Oh yeah, Dak won't be back for we're talking another probably 6 weeks.
The only question is whether or not Jerry Jones is going to go out and get somebody else instead in the meantime. But I mean, it sounds like if Cooper Rush is winning games, he might just stay pat and not have to like move things around as much. So
I don't know who you go get now. Jimmy was like the number 1 option out there, but now Jimmy's not an option.
Yeah, no, Jimmy Jimmy's staying put. His services are needed in San Francisco, and rightfully so. But yeah, so G Girl. I mean, the Giants are an interesting team. Saquon's looked okay, coming back, which he's not hurt yet, so that's good. Same thing with Christian McCaffrey. You always like to, have those guys healthy. So, yeah, G Girl, throw your take. I'd love to get your thoughts on that one as well. From your standpoint, from a Giants fan, I think they're having tryouts and just accidentally winning, says G Girl. I mean, they keep winning another one,
Another one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who just said something about? Oh, JK. Carolina plucked Blackshear off the Bills practice squad today. Could be a nice piece to have, especially after CMC's eventual yearly injury. To be fair, it's only been 2 of his years that he's been injured. Okay. The year before that, he was the #1 fantasy running back in the league by far. But 2, the Bills have like the worst rushing offense in the league. The Bills have been dominant, but their run game has been abysmal. And you think Carolina signing a guy out the Bills practice squad who's their 4th best running back on a running game that's been awful is going to be the savior in Carolina? I don't necessarily see that.
Yeah. I'll be tracking that game too. I mean, it's a 1-point spread, so I'm excited to see just a close game. Trade Jordan Love, says Milwaukee. He's kicking Jordan Love to the curb. He hates Jordan Love.
Why do you hate Jordan Love so much? The dude's played 1 game. 1 game as a starter in the league. Don't sell on him yet.
I mean, I'm
not saying he's going to be good, but I would not. If you trade him right now, you're not going to get any value.
Why you have to be mad?
Yeah, casually. I think you're talking to. I hope that's not me. Usually I feel like people are saying that to me, but that's to Milwaukee, right?
Yeah, I would think so. But there you go. Those are our bets of the week. We will see how we improve. Come on, man. We will see how we improve on our rankings here and see if we can get some in the green, in the